communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome to Millennium TV 24 Global News Network. Wonderful to have you be with us today. We're going to read today's headlines. Here we go. A judge sentenced Jussie Smollett to 150 days in jail, branding the black and gay actor a narcissistic charlatan for staging a hate crime against himself to grab the limelight while the nation struggled with wrenching issues of racial injustice. Smollett responded by defiantly maintaining his innocence and suggesting he could be killed in jail. The sentence in Smollett's post-hearing outburst capped an hour-long hearing Thursday and more than 3 years of legal drama following Smollett's claim that he had been the target of a racist and homophobic attack. Smollett didn't make a statement when offered the opportunity before the judge announced the sentence, saying he was listening to his attorney's advice. After Cook County Judge James Lynn issued his decision, Smollett removed the face mask he wore throughout the hearing to proclaim himself innocent. Next news. The twists and turns and oddities of the legal saga surrounding Jussie Smollett's claim in 2019 that he was the target of a racist and homophobic attack in Chicago culminated Thursday with his sentencing. It follows a trial in December that concluded with a jury convicting Smollett on 5 counts of disorderly conduct. Smollett was acquitted on a 6th count. On Thursday, a judge sentenced the former Empire actor to 150 days in jail for lying to police about a racist and homophobic attack that he, Smollett, orchestrated himself. Cook County Judge James Lynn sentenced Smollett to 30 months of felony probation, including 150 days in the county jail. Lynn denied a request to suspend Smollett's sentence and ordered he be placed in custody immediately. Next news. Tara Traynor composed herself, looking into a camera, and began to speak to the drug makers she holds responsible for 2 decades of suffering that has extended from her to a son born dependent on opioids. 3 members of the family that owns OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma watched silently or listened to the virtual court hearing as Traynor described giving birth to a baby who rapidly plunged into withdrawal. Quotes, "The screaming will haunt you for the rest of your life." And what it's been like to raise him? At 11, he still uses a sippy cup and diapers. Traynor and others who have suffered from or lost relatives to opioid addiction had waited years for this moment. Direct, if virtual, confrontation with members of the Sackler family in court over the consequences of the painkiller that made them a fortune. A fortune. Consequences of the painkiller that made them a fortune, while helping fuel a deadly drug epidemic, the opioid crisis. The opportunity finally came for about 24 victims or their relatives at an extraordinary bankruptcy court hearing Thursday. Next news. With COVID-19 case numbers plummeting, Emily Safran did something she hadn't done since the pandemic began 2 years ago. She put her fears aside and went to a concert. A fully vaccinated and boosted restaurant server planned to keep her mask on, but as the reggaeton star Bad Bunny took to the stage and the energy in the crowd soared, she ripped it off. Soon after, she was strolling unmasked in a trendy Portland neighborhood with friends. 2 years after the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic, changing the world overnight, relief and hope are creeping back in after a long, dark period of loss, fear, and deep uncertainty about the future. Everyone was supposed to be vaccinated or have a negative test, and I said, "What the heck? I'm just going to live my life," end quotes, Safran said of her concert experience. Quotes, "It was overwhelming, to be honest, but it also felt great to be able to just feel a little bit normal again," end quotes. We're going to take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Network. Here's the continuation of today's stories. It's not often that a president gets everything he asks for, but that's what happened. President Joe Biden wanted $1.9 trillion to help the country climb out of the coronavirus crisis last year. And Democrats in Congress delivered. The American Rescue Plan was stuffed with rental assistance, tax rebates, direct payments, and money to distribute vaccines that had just become available. Less than 2 months after Biden took office, it was a hopeful sign that he could fulfill his campaign promise to get Washington's often lumbering machinery working again. But the legislation's legacy is more complicated than it originally appeared, depending on who's telling the story. It's either Biden's first success or a trap that he set for himself. It may well prove to have been a bit of both. Friday is the anniversary of Biden's signing of the American Rescue Plan, and the second anniversary of the World Health Organization's declaration that the coronavirus had become a global pandemic. Looking back, administration officials defend the relief package as a necessary step to insulate the economy and promote a national rebound. And they point to historically low unemployment now as a proof of their success. Next news. As Western leaders congratulate themselves for their speedy and severe responses to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, they're also scratching their heads with uncertainty about what their actions will accomplish. The US, NATO, and the European Union have focused on strangling Russia's economy and arming Ukrainian fighters. But it's unclear how this will stop the war. No one knows what Vladimir Putin was thinking. But there's no reason to believe that even the toughest measures will shatter his determination to force the Western-leaning former Soviet republic back into Moscow's orbit. They may not say it publicly, but US officials and their NATO allies don't see a breaking point for Putin. Either an economic toll so severe or battlefield losses so devastating that would convince him to order his troops home and allow Ukraine's leaders to govern in peace. Next news. A $13.6 billion emergency package of military and humanitarian aid for besieged Ukraine and its European allies easily won final congressional approval, hitching a ride on a government-wide spending bill that's 5 months late, but loaded with political prizes for both parties. With Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion, killing thousands, and forcing over 2 million others to flee. The Senate approved the $1.5 trillion overall legislation by a 68-31 bipartisan margin late Thursday. Democrats and Republicans have battled this election year over rising inflation, energy policy, and lingering pandemic restrictions. But they've rallied behind sending aid to Ukraine, whose stubborn resilience against brutal force has been inspirational for many voters. Next news. Majorities of Americans in both major parties think voting rules in their states are appropriate and support a voter identification law. But Democrats are increasingly worried about progress in voting rights for Black Americans. A new poll from the Associated Press, NORC, Center for Public Affairs Research, showed voting was the only one of 8 subjects, including education and treatment by police, in which fewer Americans now than 4 years ago said African Americans had achieved significant progress since the Civil Rights era. Concern about a lack of progress is much higher for Democrats, 86%, whom believe more must be done to secure racial equality in voting rights, compared with 40% of Republicans. That's a reflection of the continuing partisan fight over election procedures that spawned more restrictive laws in 19 GOP-controlled states last year. We're going to take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you. Welcome back to the show. This is Millennium TV 24 News Global News Update. Here's the continuation of today's top stories. Poor countries in northern Africa, Asia, and the Middle East that depend heavily on wheat imports risk suffering significant food security because of Russia's war in Ukraine. And the conflict is poised to drive up already soaring food prices in much of the globe. The UN Food Agency warned Friday. Ukraine and Russia, which is under heavy economic sanctions for invading its neighbor 2 weeks ago, account for 1/3 of global grain exports. With the conflict's intensity and duration uncertain, in quotes, the likely disruptions to agricultural activities of these two major exporters of staple commodities could seriously escalate food insecurity globally. When international food and input prices are already high and vulnerable, end quotes, said Ku Donggu, Director General of the Rome-based Food and Agriculture Organization. Next news. The Russian airstrike on a children's and maternity hospital in the Ukrainian port city of Mariupol is the latest in a series of attacks that have gutted apartment blocks and killed people in their homes or simply going about their business. Allegations of war crimes, impossible yet to prove, are mounting, and an investigation is underway at the International Criminal Court. Russia's willingness to use overwhelming force, aerial bombardment, and artillery in civilian areas is already drawing comparisons with its attacks in Chechnya and Syria. But any similarity with the destruction visited on the Chechen capital of Grozny or Aleppo in northern Syria is premature for now. The invasion is only in its third week. And military analysts say that while Russia has expanded its use of air power, its forces are still not pressing their aerial advantage to the full. Next news. As Russia intensifies its assault on Ukraine, it is getting a helping hand from China in spreading inflammatory and unsubstantiated claims that the U.S., get this, that the U.S. is financing biological weapon labs in Ukraine. The U.S. has been quick to refute Russia's conspiracy theory. And the United Nations has said it has received no information that would back up that claim. But that hasn't stopped it from proliferating. The partnership between the two authoritarian countries, which weeks ago said their ties had no limits, appears aimed at muddying the waters of the rationale for Russia's invasion in what American officials have called an information war, that some fear could lay the groundwork for a false flag operation. China's foreign ministry has helped fuel the fire this week, repeating the Russian claims several times and calling for an investigation. Next news. European Union leaders said on Friday they will continue applying pressure on Russia by devising a new set of sanctions to punish Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine, while stepping up military support for Kiev. The EU's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, said the 27 officials taking part at a two-day summit outside of Paris will agree to inject an extra 500 million euros into the fund for military aid to Ukraine. As Russia widens its military offensive, on Friday, Russia struck near airports in the west of the country for the first time as troops kept up pressure on the capital, Kiev. Quotes, "I made the proposal to double our contribution," end quotes, Borrell said. "This is what we are going to do, and I'm sure that the leaders will approve of it this morning, and it is going to be done immediately. Now it flows quickly," end quotes. The EU had previously agreed to spend 450 million euros, $500 million, on military supplies for Ukrainian forces in an unprecedented step of collectively supplying weapons to a country under attack. We're going to pray for everyone. We're going to take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you so much. Welcome back to Millennium TV 24 Global News Network. Here's the continuation of today's top stories. Thanks for being with us. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang on Friday called the situation in Ukraine grave and offered Beijing's help in playing a positive role for peace, while continuing to refrain from criticizing Russia. China has largely sided with Russia in the conflict, which it has refused to refer to as a war or invasion. The U.S. has accused Beijing of helping spread unsubstantiated claims coming out of Moscow. China has offered to serve as a facilitator of talks between the sides, although it has little experience in such a role and would not likely to be viewed as a neutral party. We support and encourage all efforts that are conducive to peaceful settlement of the crisis, Lee told reporters at an annual news conference. Quotes, "The pressing task now is to prevent tension from escalating or even getting out of control." End quotes. Next news. North Korea has tested parts of its biggest intercontinental ballistic missile in two recent launches. That the U.S. and South Korean military said a suggestion it is likely to fire that weapon soon to put a spy satellite into orbit in what would be its most significant provocation in years. Separately, South Korea's defense ministry said it detected signs that North Korea was possibly restoring some of the tunnels and its nuclear testing ground that were detonated in May 2018. Weeks ahead of leader Kim Jong Un's first summit with then President at the time, Donald Trump. The ministry didn't say whether it believes that North Korea was restoring the site to resume tests of nuclear explosives. Okay. North Korea's neighbors detected two ballistic launches last week. North Korea later said it was testing cameras and other systems to be installed on a spy satellite, but didn't disclose what missiles or rockets it used. God help us. Next news. China on Friday ordered a lockdown of the 9 million residents of the northeastern city of Changchun amid a new spike in COVID-19 cases in the area attributed to the highly contagious Omicron variant. Residents are required to remain at home, with one family member permitted to venture out to buy food and other necessities every 2 days. All residents must undergo 3 rounds of mass testing, while non-essential businesses have been closed and transport links suspended. The latest lockdowns, which also include Yucheng, with 500,000 people in the eastern province of Shandong, show China is sticking to the draconian approach to the pandemic. A draconian approach to the pandemic it has enforced for most of the past 2 years, despite some earlier indications that authorities would be implementing more targeted measures. That was China. Next news. 1 year ago, President Joe Biden signed the giant American Rescue Plan into law. Some highlights of how the $1.9 trillion was used. According to administration officials, about 50 billion went toward coronavirus testing, contact tracing, and laboratory upgrades. Vaccine distribution received $15 billion and public outreach $1 billion. Officials put $10 billion toward medical devices and equipment to treat infections. More than $400 billion was distributed through 170 million economic impact payments. The average amount was $2,300. An expanded child tax credit was distributed monthly last year, and $93 billion was sent to 40 million families with 65 million children. More money will be sent out during tax season. More than $245 billion has been distributed to state, local, territory, and tribal governments. Another $105 billion is scheduled to be distributed in May. Thank you for watching. This has been the daily global news update of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please log in to get the latest news on all of our social networking sites. And there are many. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Even on TikTok we are. Millennium News 24. If you go to TikTok and you put in Millennium News 24, you're going to see us. You're going to see this program. And thank you for your support. Our YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers, now on both network broadcasting, Android and iOS devices, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV. Also, all smart TV platforms. All of them. Should work. Try it out. Please enjoy our entertainment and our latest news, views, editorials, and current events. Our Millennium TV apps. Check out the app. It's great. Millennium TV USA on Android and iOS. Millennium News Google. Google us. Check us out. Check us out on the web. www.millenniumnews24.com. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Stay with Millennium News 24. Thank you, and God bless us all. And you too. Everybody, the world. Thank you.